And welcome back to Real Ag Radio. The Farmer Rapid Fire today, of course, is brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. And we are joined right now by Pioneer agronomist Paul Hermans out of Eastern Ontario. Hey, Paul, how's it going?
It's going great, Sean. Great to be here and talking agronomy.
Yeah. And how is the heat treating you, my friend?
It's warm out here. We've had that heat dome. I mean, currently sitting at 43 degrees with the humidity, 34 without. So it's a challenge out there, but we'll take the heat, maybe tone it down just a little bit.
Yeah, take a little bit of the edge off, just a little bit. But the corn has got to be loving this, doesn't it?
It corn loves it. Yeah, it likes that 30, 31 degrees kind of max, but I mean, it's not looking back. We got lots of moisture right now. In my area, I'd say 80% of the corn crop looks amazing. We're almost touching leaves together, holding hands in the field, starting to shade
Wow.
in. So that's a good thing and moving along. Beans, they're in that ugly yellow phase right now. They're almost, going to set nodules soon, almost V2, V3, but they're going to move along here fast as well.
Okay, so we really like here's what's interesting is that if you go back 3 weeks, there was a lot of like, we are average at best. And it seems like the mood around the quality of the corn crop in Ontario, East and Southwest, it seems like it's improved. Am I jumping to conclusions there?
It depends a lot, Sean, on where you're at. I was talking with John Saliga. He's agronomist, Southern
Yep.
Ontario, the Far West. They were just planting corn on the weekend,
Yeah.
and guys finally getting going there, right? So that's one side of the province from a different world. Here, we've been done corn for a couple of weeks, but it's really picked up. And again, 80% of that crop in my area, Eastern Ontario, looks amazing. It's those low-lying areas, the ones that got flooded out. They're the so-so crop, but overall, things are looking promising.
Yeah, and this is the time of the year where obviously there's a lot of spraying happening. We're in that in-season management, and you can't emphasize enough: scout, 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 scout. Be in your fields, be looking what's going on. And I know it sounds like, yeah, of course, dummy, of course, Sean. Like you're not telling me that I don't know, but it's a good reminder. Stay on top of it.
Exactly. And one of the big things I think this year, Sean, is we've had almost 3 or 4 different planting seasons this spring
Yeah.
based on the weather, right? So a lot of differences in stages of crop maturity out there. We're having to spray. Some guys are doing hay, nitrogen side dressing going on, a lot of activities. And sometimes we forget about that field in the back corner or way off to the side kind of thing. But making sure we're scouting it and keeping on top because, you know, yield pays the bills and scouting and taking corrective actions is really going to help this crop moving ahead.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine, an agronomist, who the cutworms have been a real issue in Western Canada in certain parts. And he talked about in a 10-day period, cutworms took about 600 acres of canola, right? And so that's fast. We've been dealing in Ontario with like slugs, for example. There's always something trying to attack our crop and remove us off of that optimum yield curve, right? And we got to stay on top of some of those. In this example, pests, diseases. I don't care what it is. We got to stay on top of it.
Exactly. Like we're, a couple of weeks away. We're starting to get almost to the longest day of the year. We start going downhill with sunshine,
Yeah.
right? So soybeans are going to think about flowering. And our year, we start thinking about white mold season. Hate to call it a season, but if you look at, we've got a lot of moisture in the ground right now. We could be setting up for another white mold year. We've got some more beans on beans from last year. So potentially more white molds. We got to think about fungicide and where we're going to apply that, the fields that have had that historical high levels too. So keeping
Yeah.
on top of things.
Yeah. At the beginning of the show, I was talking about Viatude, just as just a bit of a product drop there for everybody. if you're
Yeah.
if you're dealing with white mold for sure. Um, and I guess for some of those beans that went in later, how does the switch here as the days start to get shorter, how does it impact those younger beans?
So yeah, you look at a couple different things. Once you get beyond the middle of May, first of all, every 3 days later planted, we're going to be a day later harvest. And I was looking at reproductive stages. Basically, as you get later in the season, your reproductive stage shortens up. So we don't have as many days for flowering. So obviously that's going to affect from a yield standpoint. But we've been, coaching our growers to plant more seeds per acre later on, have more nodes per acre. That'll help. But ultimately, the later we get, we're going to reduce yield a bit in the soybean world for sure.
Quickly before we wrap up here, Paul, what do you suggest growers be thinking about between now and say Canada Day, July 1st? What are some key points?
The big, I guess, couple, two or three bigs. One is keeping on top of weed control. We got some large weeds out there and just differences in stages based on the crop and everything. So keep after that. It's nitrogen side dressing time. Do a PSNT test if you haven't done that, a side dress nitrogen test basically. And then fungicides, for soybeans are going to be coming up shortly. And then, a couple of weeks down the road, thinking about corn as well. So lots to think about, lots going on, and keep that crop looking the best that it can.
Yeah, great stuff. Always fabulous insights from you, Paul. Hey, really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us here on the Farmer Rapid Fire.
Appreciate it, Sean. Thanks a lot.
If you have any feedback, everybody, send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. Of course, the Farmer Rapid Fire is brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. We just did mention Viatude as well from Corteva Agri Sciences. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with Real Ag Radio, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.